Hello everyone, welcome to Practical Diplomacy. You see, people have always been asking me, what do diplomats do in their everydays or throughout a career? And it's not easy to give a brief answer, as diplomacy is so beautifully multidisciplinary that it's simply impossible to list all its types, branches, and define them accurately. So, disclaimer, when I talk about the many branches of diplomacy, I'm not going to try to be exhaustive. And I will simplify many things just to be able to go through the major types so that you can see how multicolored and interesting the world of diplomacy is. All right, so obviously we start with the good old country-to-country bilateral diplomacy, planning and managing a government's relationship with another. This is the ground zero of diplomacy. This is what you automatically think of when you picture high-level visits, agreements between countries. You know, when the news says that this president is meeting that prime minister, etc. It also includes a lot of background management and even more boring analytical report writing about the partner country from the embassies back to headquarters or simply at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Also, in the framework of this, the partners discuss what other areas and branches of diplomacy shall enter this bilateral domain, to what extent and with what topics. Then if we raise the level from bilateral, you'll find the international organizations, the so-called multilateral level, which can be regional, for example, the European Union, the ASEAN, the African Union, OSCE, NATO, etc., or global, like the UN and its agencies, for example. Here you have multiple partners joining forces for a common interest or common goal, deciding how they will cooperate and in what directions they will move forward based on that common interest that brought them together in the first place. But that is just a difference in the level. There are branches based on different topics. So one of the most important such is economic or commercial diplomacy. Obviously, one of the goals of interaction on the international level has always been to trade. And if, for instance, a country's companies wish to enter another's market, there will be some diplomats with experience in the host country's circumstances who will assist these companies to succeed on foreign land. There is, of course, cultural diplomacy, which serves to promote a country's cultural values, cultural products, either bilaterally, targeting another country's audience, or worldwide. There is education diplomacy, organizing exchange programs, offering scholarships. Then there is tourism diplomacy, which is similar to cultural, but promoting touristic opportunities, or possibly finding synergies between partners and then do mutual promotions. There is sports diplomacy, which is necessary to internationally facilitate sports activities, so we can all see Olympics and World Cups, international competitions, and so on. So I promise it's a lot more than the scandals of FIFA. Okay, moving on. One of the best known branches is security policy, all the way to military diplomacy and conflict prevention. Well, the term speaks for the content. Basically, before the first gunshot fired, it's mostly diplomacy, trying to avoid any gunshots at all. When they are fired, then it's armed conflict, in which, of course, there are lots of diplomatic tasks to do to stop those gunshots. A very important branch is development cooperation, also called foreign aid, or if I wanted to simplify, it's kind of like a charity diplomacy. There's a very wise understanding in the international community that it is in everyone's interest if all global partners develop at a more or less equal pace, or at least if that is not possible, then no one falls behind too much. Therefore, the highest income countries support the lowest income countries through different programs and systems, both regionally and globally. Now, if you look around in this world, you could say it's clearly not working, but if you check the many specific projects of development cooperation, you will see that most of the time, they serve this noble cause usefully and efficiently. So the problem is not that it's not working. The problem is that aid can usually only be a partial solution, never a sustainable and comprehensive one. Of course, I cannot leave out the world of consular assistance, which legally speaking is not diplomacy, but since it's mostly conducted by diplomats and the consulates are mostly housed in embassies, it is just naturally part of diplomatic life. But it is not only the branch of diplomacy that may offer a wide range of choice for someone. There are also very different kinds of activities in each. Like if you're more the observant type, you can have a position in which you gather information from various sources and analyze, write papers, does help decision-making procedures in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or you can work in a foreign policy think tank. If you are more on the active and dynamic side, you go for foreign service and discover, interact, actively find solutions and build networks. You can even be an expert of something that has nothing to do with diplomacy, like agriculture, heavy industries, but still be engaged in diplomacy when there is an exchange of best practices between countries within specific sectoral fields. So you see, this list can be endless. And I haven't even mentioned that most of the time your daily activity as a diplomat qualifies in multiple such categories, simply because your boss gives you a wide range of tasks. And all that is good news. Firstly, because you have so many options to find your true path, your ideal line of work. And also later you will have the ways then to switch and try different areas, thus enriching your personal experience and grow as both a professional and a thinking human being. Second, in diplomacy, you will be surrounded by many types of people because of these many branches, and it is always fresh and thought-provoking to spend your time with people with various mindsets, much more than just experiencing the same approach day by day. In conclusion, if you decide to go for it, choosing diplomacy as your profession, or if you already are a diplomat, you are not limiting, or you have not limited yourself to a narrow path. And frankly speaking, as I see it, the world is yours. Thanks for watching. Keep promoting peace, and see you in the next chapter.